31st, 2013. Our office is projecting an ending fund balance of $145.7 million for FY 2013. This is $19.2 million lower than the projection from finance. The difference is due to a $19.2 million higher revenue projection from the finance department. Based on our current projections, the city's fund balance will be $16.3 million above our 7.5% threshold. While we've increased and decreased several revenue projections, the total increased $4.8 million over last month's projection. Sales tax, we increased $3.3 million to reflect the February sales tax receipt. Licenses and permits, we increased $1 million for burglar alarm permits, plan review fees, and liquor licenses. And finally, charges for services increased $426,000, and that's mainly for higher planning fees. Major differences where we have between us and the finance department fall into several categories. For property tax revenues, $4.9 million lower. We're using a higher tourist payment projection at lower collection rate. Industrial assessments are now $1.6 million lower. We also use a lower collection rate there. Sales tax revenues are now at $3.8 million lower. Licenses and permits are now at $1.9 million lower. Charges for services are now at $1.9 million lower. Municipal courts are still about $2.2 million lower. As it relates to the enterprise funds, the combined utility system operating transfers increased $5.1 million, and that's for the purchase of a warehouse and the capital projects fund. There were no material changes in the aviation or in the CE. Commercial paper and bonds are outlined in the MOFOR as well. Mayor, this is also the time that we present our quarterly investment report. I'll be very brief. As I mentioned yesterday to you council members and to the committee, our investments total about $233 million higher than last year. But as of March 31st, our general pool was yielding about 0.846%, which is down a little from the 1.109% that we had our prior quarter, and that's due to reinvestment risk. I'd also like to present the quarterly swaps report. Net interest earnings over the 9-month period ending March 31st, 2013 of about $1.8 million in swap revenue. And I've also passed out a memo to update regarding a question from Councilmember Pennington on yesterday as well. So that is the monthly financial operations report for the period ending 2013, the quarterly swap report for the period ending March 31st, and the quarterly investment report for the period ending March 31st, 2013 from the Comptroller's office.
Good morning. This is the 9+3 financial and operations report for the period ending March 31st, 2013. Our fiscal year 2013 projections are based on 9 months of actuals, at this point 3 months of projections. In the general fund, we're currently projecting an ending fund balance of $164.9 million. It's approximately $195,000 higher than last month, and 9.56% of expenditures less debt. The fund balance reflects the destination of the full $20 million fund balance to the rainy day fund. In revenues and other sources, our projection increased by $750,000 from last month is due to the following forecast changes. Our sales tax projection increased $1.4 million due to continuing favorable economic trends. You'll see our sales tax receipts for February were $4.7 million higher than the same period last year. That's 11.7% increase over the prior year. Our other taxes increased by $309,000 due to higher third quarter receipts for mixed beverage tax. Licenses and permits increased by $296,000, mainly due to higher special fire permits and plan review fees. Our projection for charges for services decreased by $329,000. That's due to lower than anticipated ambulance fee collections. Municipal court fines and forfeits decreased by $912,000, mainly due to lower than anticipated moving violation collections. In the general fund, expenditures and other uses, our projection increased by $555,000 from last month, mainly to reflect higher payments to limited purpose annexations as a result of higher sales tax projections. We agree with the Comptroller on the combined utility system projections, so I'll move to the health benefit fund. There, our expenditures are projected to decrease by $2.3 million due to the elimination of Cigna stop-loss insurance effective May 1st, 2013. In the cable TV fund, our expenditures decreased by $803,000 due to projects being delayed to 2014. In DARLA, our revenue projection decreased by $1.4 million due to lower collection rate on delinquent accounts, and then as a result, our expenditures decreased by $1.2 million. In the historic preservation fund, our expenditures decreased by $543,000 due to project delays. And finally, in the municipal court technology fee fund, expenditures decreased by $288,000 due to lower than anticipated maintenance costs. Thank you very much. That concludes our report.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Pennington.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Comptroller, I do have your report here dated today about the swaps. Are you prepared to answer questions, or should I get back with you some other time on that?
Well, we can go into more detail later if you want to come to the office and we can sit down and go into extreme detail, and I can bring in our individuals who know a little bit more about swaps.
I guess there are two questions, general questions that I would have that we can talk about later. And one is, what do we expect the net effect of the two current swaps that are still outstanding to be? And then secondly, what can we learn from the future from this? And so those are kind of my two questions we can talk about.
I can tell you now, we are on par to gain to net about $2 million on the current swaps that we have now.
That's $2 million a year.
$2 million a year. Last year,
Even though there's a negative value of the swap, is it like a bond, so that it may be valued during the term, may be valued for less than the stated value, but at the end you get the full payment? Is that kind of the way this works?
A little bit different. If you're really swapping out income streams, and so the notional value is one amount, which is kind of set sort of just basically the face value, and then we are based on all of the interest rates that are going on now. The net value that we get, the payments we receive are higher than the payments we pay out. So we're on par for the last couple of years. We've been between about 1.7 and $2 million.
So even though there's a negative value shown on the value of the swap, we expect to make money over the term of the bond?
Absolutely.
That's a good result.
Absolutely. Now, your second question is, what do we expect to learn? Best practices, I can tell you, obviously derivatives are risky. Right now, we're still doing okay with these derivatives, but I can tell you the city probably will not be doing anytime soon, anytime soon.
We concur. I haven't had enough type of swap since I was city controller.
Yeah, the swaps came out when she was city controller. See, I was on council too, I was interest of board as well.
Yes. Councilmember Rodriguez.
And I did as well, and so that was my question. I wanted to know if we could terminate these two swaps, is it any time, or is there a binding contract? How does that work?
We could really terminate these, but it would be hundreds of millions of dollars, so we would.
Only if it's not
probably elect not to do that.
Only if it's not beneficial to the city.
Right.
And that was the other question, or do you see us utilizing this mechanism in the future?
Let me be honest, the swaps that the city of Houston are good swaps now, and derivatives are not all bad, but I think that in this economy right now, I think we all are probably a lot more conservative about derivatives. I don't believe that there's one that's been brought forward to us that really has whet our appetite, so I don't expect us to do it anytime soon.
Thank you, Control. Thank you for the overview. Appreciate it. Thank you, Kelly.
We are making money on an annual basis on these swaps. The issue is that they are long-term instruments, and so if you get embedded there, you stay there for a long time.
These are 30-year swaps.
Councilmember Burks.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let me ask you something. Your reports in the past, your quarterly reports have always shown ambulance collections. Where is it in this report that it shows ambulance collections?
Charges for services, sir. The line item charges for
It
services.
used to be a line item that said ambulance, had parentheses around it. It is not there now.
Maybe in some of our special, in budget fiscal affairs, we presented a number of collection presentations, but the MOFR presentation itself, which is also presented in budget fiscal affairs, hasn't changed.
You know, I've been here 16 months, 7 of us have been here 16 months, and we look at habits that you all project to us. When you change them, we can't see them. There are a number of people who have not gone to hospitals, found dead in their houses, due to the fact that ambulance fees are too high. I told you all that at the beginning, and I'll tell you that right now. Put it in your report so we can see it exactly. Kelly, I'm not mad at you. Don't get this wrong. But put it in the report so we can actually see it. I track this. When you disguise it as something else, I don't like that. Just put it there, let me see it, because I'm going to ask about it every time. Thank you.
Be happy to provide you the detail, Councilmember.
Councilmember.
I'm trying to understand, it has been in the trend indicators in the back of the book, the performance measures, it's never been on the front page on ambulance fee collection.
Mayor, it's been there in the book, I can open it up and look at it any given time I want to. Now I can't.
Page 7, section 7, page 13 there.
Seven.
It's
Yes.
the trend that you're referring to.
Yes.
Councilmember, I think would also maybe, I tend to mention it in the transmittal letter, and that may be where you kind of fixate it on. So you mentioned it, it's in our transmittal letter, but it's still under charges for services.
This book is not, format has not changed in several years, sir, but it is on page 7, section 7, page 7.
I can see it, but now my argument is not to argue with you. My argument is the past reports, which I do have in my office, say ambulance. This says charges of services.
Sir, if you will show me.
I will be happy to.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Pro Tem Bradford.
Thank you, Mayor. Comptroller Green, right now, thank you for your report. I want to just, on the record again, inquire about the red light camera contract and those dollars. As indicated in Mr. Dow's report, revenues decreased by $1.4 million due to a lower collection rate on delinquent accounts than anticipated. This council made the decision to secure future payments to the red light camera company. We secured those payments via general fund dollars we did. And I know that the payments are annualized, calendar-wise, and we're talking fiscal year, understand that. But this does mean that we are $1.4 million behind what we anticipated having collected up to this point. And what impact is that going to have on the general fund, if any, ending fiscal year FY13, given the fact that I understand payment is annualized on a calendar basis?
Yes, and as I put it yesterday, I'll put it again. Actually working on it with my team last night, we're putting in concrete performance measures for the vendor. The vendor agreed to them in the contract, and we will report out every month where we stand on those performance measures and the collection percentage that we expect and the actual collections achieved for that. I'm really, like I said, very positive with our new vendor and having a professional collection firm in place as opposed to ATS backstopping us on that we'll hit those metrics that we have in place, and happy to report those on a regular basis.
Clearly, we won't have an answer until the end of this calendar year, because that's what the payments are based on calendar year. But are you saying now, on record, that it's your professional opinion that FY13 ended June the 31st of this year, the ATS payment requirement would have zero impact on general fund account?
Well, I mean, since the payment is not due to the end of this calendar year, we're fine for this fiscal year. The question is, in the first 6 months of the next fiscal year, will we hit those? Both of the bidders that came back and we selected from on the collections, both submitted bids that indicated they were very confident that they could get that number for 2013, the first 6 months of FY14. And what I'm saying to you is, we will show that progress and hold those vendors accountable.
Thank you. Fair enough. Let me go back to the analyst fee just a little bit. At some point in time, are we going to do some type of analysis or some type of study to determine, we were charging basically about $400 per ambulance ride, and we went to about $1,200 ballparkish per ambulance ride, plus a mileage fee. And the collection rates are down. The Comptroller, and I saw Comptroller Green in your transmittal letter where you mentioned there was a $1.9 million decrease based on the ambulance fee collections being less than anticipated. I thought it was always better to collect, 40% of $400 or 50% of $400 than 10% of a $1,200 fee. So are we starting to take a look to determine why is it those collection rates are down that 1.9 million less than anticipated? Is it because we increased the fee, or do we know?
No, it is, we have presented in budget and fiscal affairs, and we're happy to come back. The issues have been around the collections firm that we have, Xerox, ACS.
If you go to the page I referenced earlier, section 7, page 13, you can see at the top of the page a significant drop in the total number of transports.
So you have that driving it as well, but we're working closely with our collections vendor. Like I said yesterday, I'm very encouraged with the steps Xerox is taking to improve their internal processes around the collections. They acknowledge that they haven't had the best collections program, the best processes in place. So I really do feel that the transports and the collections are what's driving it, much more so than the rate, because the vast majority of our collections come from Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurance. The collections we get from people who really can't afford it is that really doesn't drive the number anywhere to the extent that the first two categories do.
Thank you. And the municipal courts collections, they were a little lower due to the number of citations being written versus collections as well.
That is the primary driver there as well, much like the transports.
And Controller Green, you mentioned your transmittal, the ambulance fee issue. For you and your purposes, it's just an accounting procedure because the city, we have money to handle all these things. Why is it you opted to mention that?
Basically, what we are leading up to is when we do the general appropriations, and so I'm letting you all know what we will appropriate and what we will legally say you have to spend at this point. And so that's why we're going to bring in where you're down and where you're up.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you both for presenting. Director Dow, yesterday, just to recap, I asked if on the expense side, if there was anything, high expenses that we were anticipating as we close out this fiscal year. I believe you said you had started scrubbing down basically beginning February, so you don't anticipate anything forthcoming that we had.
The general appropriation ordinance historically has been the last appropriation we do for the year, and we work very hard to ensure that when that appropriation ordinance is passed, that it has all the headroom we need for any particular, for any emergencies, even in the appropriation total.
Great. And I had previously inquired also about us trying to find any potential cost savings for fuel and making sure we're planning ahead. And I understand we are looking into that issue just to see how we could maximize these savings.
That's correct. We're working with Director Hoagland right now on looking at our contracts and working with our vendors to find ways that we could lower that cost and potentially lock in some of the prices, which we don't have that ability today, which exposes us to a lot of risk. So we're in the middle of that process right now.
Great. And in closing, I just want to commend everyone with the fact that the fund balance reflects the designation of the full $20 million fund balance, the rainy day fund. So it's nice to know that if we were to face any kind of major economic, catastrophe or major type of disaster, man-made or not, that we have that cushion there.
The city's in much better shape than we were 2 years ago. It's very good to have that in place.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Chair recognizes Councilmember Costello.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the monthly financial and operating report for fiscal year 2013, period ending March 31st. Also, the quarterly investment report and quarterly swap reports dated March 31st, 2013.
You need to vote favoring, opposed, motion carried.